Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Nahverkehr Dresden route in TSW2. We're currently at Riesa this morning, and we're going to drive the German BR101 on an Intercity service all the way to Dresden Hauptbahnhof, calling only at Dresden Neustadt on the way. Yes, this locomotive is relatively easy to set up once you've worked it all out. It's also a... hold on a second, I'm just going to see if I can walk through it. No, we can't. Like the BR146 and BR185, you can't walk through the middle of this thing. Yet you can with the BR182, or as I like to call it, the Blink 182. Anyway, let's have a look around the outside. And there she is in all her glory. I say that despite the fact that the BR101 is, although I honestly think it's a bit of an ugly beast. Hang about. I could have sworn I just saw, further down the train, I could have sworn I just saw a passenger glitch through the doors on the wrong side. That is very odd. Anyway, this is an intercity service that has come from Köln, or Köln. And that ding sounded like a church bell. Right. And we're good to go. A few seconds late, but I don't think that really matters. Don't want to do a full throttle start because that'll cause this thing to wheel slip. Anyone who's more familiar with the BR101s in real life, comment below and tell us how accurate these sounds are, if they are accurate at all, because I barely know anything about these things. What I do know is that they were built around the late 1990s and into the 2000s by initially Adtrans, and I think they later became part of Bombardier. Oh, I don't like the look of this. Don't like this wheel slip. Everything is a sander. But yeah, the other thing I know about the BR101s is that they're pretty common throughout Germany, and basically like the DLs of that country. And the DLs, by the way, are a class of dual cab diesel locomotives here in New Zealand. They first entered service in 2011, and now we've got 63 of them running around the North Island. So they're kind of all over the place. Yes, as I said earlier, this is a run from Riesa to Dresden Hauptbahnhof, and we'll be calling only at Dresden Neustadt on the way. So this is the stopping pattern that the Intercity and ICE trains use. There's a pair of Talent 2s going the other way. I think the Talent 2s will be on the RE50 service to Leipzig. Or, yeah, I can't think any other service that would take them all the way to Riesa. Yes, even though I've got the windows unlocked, I'm actually going to be leaving this window itself shut for this run, because sometimes the wind noise is I find the wind noise is a bit too loud, quite a distraction. Yes, even though this journey is about 53 kilometres, shouldn't take us any more than half an hour to complete this run. Especially since we'll be able to get up to 160 kilometers an hour for a fair portion of the journey. And since this is one of the faster services, we'll actually be branching off the main line, not too far from Nahverkehr, and then going along the fast line, rejoining the slow S-Bahn line just east of Kosvig. And on that fast line, we'll be going across an overbridge that takes us over the single track section to Rosenheim. Hello, there's a freight engine. That's the MRCE BR185/5 with car carrying wagons. Okay, I've seen those sorts of wagons before, but never in New Zealand, I don't think. Although actually, no, saying that, I think New Zealand Rail did at one point have wagons for transporting cars. And yes, I know I've seen that this warning of the red signal coming up soon, and this time I'm not actually taking any chances. Because last time I thought it would clear. Well, last time I tried this, I thought it would clear before we got to the signal, but yeah, it looks like it'll be a different story. What? That cleared surprisingly quickly. Must be another train in front of us that just happened to clear the signal in time. Anyway, this station we're coming up on now is Glaubitz. This is, of course, the first station past Riesa. And I believe the only train service that stops here is RE50, which is, as I said earlier, is a regional express between Dresden and Leipzig. Right, now I've just noticed a bug on the speedometer for the AFB, almost like cruise control, and I'm going to see if I can activate it. So there's the lever itself, but you have to enable it somewhere else. Actually, no, I probably shouldn't try to faff around with trying to enable AFB, and instead focus on the track ahead. Decent lighting for the engine, isn't it? Only problem is that almost every time you try to get a decent screenshot, the catenary masts get in your way, and the shadow ruins the picture. Such is the nature of things, I suppose. Now that horn is reused from the Ice 3M. I don't know if we'll see one of them today, but regardless, I wouldn't have thought that in real life the BR101s would have the same horn as the Ice 3M. Now the other thing I don't understand is... Actually, oh, by the way, this is Nunkritz station. There's the chemical plant. So, yeah, as I was saying, normally I've noticed that German engines and units in TSW have two-tone horns, or at least engines like the BR146 and BR143 do have two-tone horns. This one doesn't. And yeah, I'm not entirely sure why the horn sound was reused from the Ice 3M. As far as I know, Dovetail did make the BR101 themselves, and they didn't, when it wasn't done by a third party like Trains in Germany or Skyhook Games. Although given how badly Skyhook screwed up the BR187, I don't think I'd want to get a German engine that was made by them. But anyway, yeah, there's this constant lag again. This chemical plant, and hold on, if I time this right, be able to get a screenshot with the BR101 and the damn it. Anyway, this is the BR363, which is a diesel that comes with the Nahverkehr Dresden route, and it's used to only to do the chemical wagon run between Riesa and Nunkritz. As for why this thing's constantly lagging, I've got absolutely no idea. Just like the other time when I tried doing Boston to Stoughton. It got to the point where, for the most part, it was running smoothly. Then you get to the Stoughton branch and it starts constantly lagging to absolutely no end. I see there's the advanced warning there for the 160 speed limit, so obviously that means that we'll be going onto the fast line soon. Just realised the frame rate will probably get a lot worse when we get into Dresden Hauptbahnhof. It's especially bad on when you're doing the Toronto rump version and you come in and out, especially with like the BR612, that tilting DMU. It is generally quite annoying. And it seems these days the only way to get like consistently high frame rates from a game without lowering the graphics settings is to spend thousands of dollars on an incredibly high-end computer, and that is just, as far as I'm concerned, that's just wrong. It's not like, because obviously not everyone who plays these sorts of games has enough to afford such an expensive computer, and even then they'll probably go to all that hassle of getting a new computer only to find that, oh, big surprise, it still doesn't work, or at least it doesn't work smoothly like it should be. Anyway, yeah, now we've just left the slow line via Kosvik and we're now on the fast line. Well, they're saying that it's not a dedicated high-speed line, especially since the I think in Germany at least, if you're going to have trains going faster than 160 kilometers an hour, you do need at the very least LZB. So remember that Hamburg to Hanover, which is an old route in Train Simulator, has got sections where the ice trains can get up to 200 kilometers an hour, but it's not. Excuse me. On those sections, the ice trains are not on their own dedicated track, and instead they have to share it with the conventional trains. And but in that instance, they do need to have the LZB system at the very least. Now, I don't know for certain how fast the BR101s can go, but if it's any indication, the speedo there, if you can see it, that is going up to 200. That goes all the way up to 250 kilometers an hour. Yeah, there's that single track section to Grossenhain I was on about. Didn't think I was going to realise that it was there. It'd be pretty decent timing if you could get a train, or if somehow in timetable mode you could get like an RB31, RE15 or RE18 service going under that bridge at the exact same time that one of these faster trains is going by above them. Yeah, I think, what was the station on the... It'd be kind of like, it's either Canning Town or West Ham. A station out in East London where on one level you've got, where on one platform you've got the Docklands Light Railway, and then on the lower level, right below the DLR platform, you've got the London Underground Jubilee line. Although, of course, neither the DLR or Underground are actually like fast express services. No, just joined another line. Where's that come from? No idea. Anyway, yeah, there is that Kosvik. No, that's Prestowitz. We've still got a fair way. I think we've still got a fair way to go before we rejoin the slow lines, and then we'll be running alongside S-Bahn. And then once we've joined back onto the slow lines, because the regular routes will be following alongside the S-Bahn trains for the rest of the journey. So of course, you've got the S-Bahn, because it'll be the S1 line of the Dresden S-Bahn, which is Meißen-Trieberstal to either Schona or Bad Schandau or Pirna, I think. Only problem is that the only part of the S1 that you get in TSW is between Dresden Hauptbahnhof and Meißen-Trieberstal, which is annoying because I would have much rather preferred to have the entire S1 line, especially when more recently Dovetail have come out with that Dresden to Chemnitz route, where they did include the entirety of the S3 line, which is probably the strangest line on that system. Mind you, they're all a bit strange because they don't use, because I'm not used to seeing S-Bahn networks that are run with locomotives and coaches. The majority of the ones I'm familiar with have EMUs instead. Is that I don't think you'd ever see BR101s running S-Bahn services. Obviously, I don't think they were built for that sort of thing. Actually, something I've just remembered that's rather annoying is Dovetail. Where is the cab car? Why did you not include one with the BR101 add-on when they do actually run with cab cars in real life? Dovetail, some of your decisions just don't make any sense at all. Like, in terms of what you do and don't include. It's just incredibly confusing. this distance so far has gone by relatively quickly. I think when we started from Riesa it was something like 43 kilometers to Dresden Neustadt, and now we've pretty much covered half that run. Okay, so if we maintain around 120 kilometers an hour, we should, or possibly even exceed it, we should get to Dresden Neustadt on time. But Dresden Hauptbahnhof at 8:31. It's a pretty tight timetable that you certainly wouldn't be able to manage if you weren't able to go past 120. And then of course you've also got other sections where the speed limits are lower, like for going through obviously the complicated track work outside Dresden Hauptbahnhof, and certainly through the city of Dresden itself you wouldn't be able to go, or once you get past Dresden Neustadt you can't go past 100. Don't even know if you can get anywhere near that speed. We'll just have to see, won't we? That sun is, I think that sun is too low to put down this screen. Or, I don't know then. I suppose that could work as long as you can at the very least still see the track ahead as well as the signals. There we go, should do the trick. Although it's certainly quite a big visual distraction having this great big screen in the way. And I can't imagine real drivers would have it down this far, because obviously you would want them to be focusing on the track the whole time. Make do without it. One thing I know is that you're certainly not supposed to look directly at the sun in real life, because I think if you do, you'll go blind. Last time I remember driving along this these fast lines, I think it was in the Ice 3M. It was either that or it was doing a run to Riesa from Dresden with the BR101. Either way, I do remember that this engine was initially done up as an add-on solely for the Hauptstrecke Rhein-Ruhr or Duisburg to Bochum. And I saw in real life, I think it was a video from, I think it was Dylan's travel reports, where he actually started a journey in Essen and then went to Berlin, somewhere else in Germany, but I know that on that journey he did actually cover the section between Essen and Duisburg, which I thought was quite fascinating, especially considering how many times I've driven on the Hauptstrecke Rhein-Ruhr in TSW. Even though that route is actually quite short and there's no branch lines at all for the most part, I remember I've driven on it enough times to almost know the route off by heart. Well, I never remember the specific speed limits or anything of that nature, but I certainly remember the stations. And if you like driving the RE11 along that route, or it's like a regional express that overall covers, I think, Mönchengladbach to Hamm, Westphalia. When you're on the section between Duisburg and Bochum, it's always the same stopping pattern of like it's like Duisburg Hauptbahnhof, Mulheim, Ruhr Hauptbahnhof, Essen Hauptbahnhof, Wattenscheid Hauptbahnhof. Wait, no, just Wattenscheid and then Bochum Hauptbahnhof. And of course, Hauptbahnhof is German for like central railway station. There's a BR143 hauling freight. Although I'm not sure exactly what's in those sorts of wagons. That's the other thing. I barely know anything about railways in Germany, despite the fact that I've pretty much got all but one of the German routes in TSW. If you think of it, I think the only one I don't have is Hauptstrecke Hamburg to Lübeck. Not sure how to feel about that, because it'll have that S-Bahn track modelled between like Hamburg Hauptbahnhof and of course Hasselbruck, and of course there probably won't be any S-Bahn trains included like the BR474, yet there was with the old train simulator version. And because, like, considering that Dovetail boasts about this game being incredibly realistic, they sure as hell don't go all the way in that regard, because more often than not you'll see, I mean, just take the Bakerloo line for example. Like once you get above ground past at Queen's Park and you go all the way up to Harrow and Wealdstone, you're running right alongside the West Coast Main Line for pretty much that whole section, and yet there is absolutely no AI trains moving about on that section. So there's no like Avanti West Coast Class 390s, no LNWR Class 350s. You get the idea. It just looks so dull and boring and just unrealistically quiet, especially for London. And even the Bakerloo line timetable is horrendously inconsistent. So I think in real life the trains are meant to be like every 2 to 5 minutes, whereas in TSW they're more like every 20 to 60 minutes on the underground. Imagine trying to do that sort of frequency on the Victoria line. It'd be absolute. Probably be like Hillsborough on the platforms. Anyway, we've just rejoined the slow lines. This will be one of the S-Bahn stations called a name that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. But I know that one of the stations along here is Radebeul Ost, which is, well, it's served by the S-Bahn trains, but you also get the regional ones stopping there. And that's the only I think that's the only station between Kosvig and Dresden where any regional trains stop there. Although I think the only one that does is RE50. So I think from memory, when you're driving RE15 or RE18 services, you just go sailing past on these fast lines without stopping. Mind you, it's not like you could stop at these stations if you were on the fast lines, as you can see with that one that we've just passed. Sort of like the S-Bahn stations on Toronto Rump, like between Dresden Hauptbahnhof and Toronto itself. Except in that instance, that's only a 3-track section, and I think the 3rd track that the island platforms don't connect with, that's only used by occasional faster services. And I'm guessing that train that has just gone the other way, that'll either be an S1 to Meissen-Triebertal or an RE50 to Leipzig. Although I wouldn't have thought that they'd use the BR143 on that service. Either way, it's impressive that they use these locomotives, because I would have thought multiple units would be much better at getting up to speed quickly in terms of like acceleration. And the thing with the S-Bahn, at least from what I've experienced, is that the distances between the stations are generally very, very close together, and the timetables are quite tight, so you do need good acceleration, even if it's a locomotive. But from experience, the BR143 is certainly not a particularly easy engine to drive, mainly because of the speed selector because it's got a speed selector thing instead of a throttle, and there's also like a force selector lever which I think controls how much power is actually going to the motors. Anyway, this is Radebeul Ost, we're just passing now, and let's see whether or not this is the S-Bahn service. No, it's RE50. And that locomotive is the BR146-2. Which I think first appeared in TSW at least, first appeared on with the Main Spessartbahn, and has since been rehashed at least once. But you do generally find it like extra timetable mode layers on quite a few other routes. But no, that station we just passed was of course Radebeul Ost. And there's another station, obviously. I don't remember what that one's name is, but I know that just before you go around the curve and up into Dresden Neustadt, you go past a station that's called Dresden Bischofsplatz. And at Dresden Neustadt we get the S2 line joining us. That comes in from Dresden Flughafen, which is German for airport. Which begs the question, Dovetail, why the hell did you not bother to add the Dresden Flughafen branch? I've got a lot of things I want to call them, but probably can't if they want to keep this video to keep to stay monetized. Those snowflakes. Anyway, yeah, I mean, considering they added the Meissen, or the branch line to Meissen-Triebischtal, why did they not do this? Why could they not be bothered to do the same to go to Dresden Flughafen? I mean, as it stands now, you've got a pathetically small section of the S2 line, and even though there are services for S2 in timetable mode, you can only drive them between Dresden Hauptbahnhof and Dresden Neustadt, and it's just such a pointlessly short run that it's like, why do you bother? I just realised I've slowed down far too early for that 80k speed limit, and we've got no hope of getting to Dresden Neustadt on time at this rate. But I'm not fussed about it. I mean, it's not like in Train Simulator where if you're late in a standard mode scenario, it'll fail the instruction and you can't complete the scenario properly. Whereas in TSW, it'll still let you proceed even when you're late. Right, this station we're coming up on, I'm pretty sure this is Dresden Bischofsplatz. And yeah, these stations past Dresden Neustadt and out towards Meissen-Triebischtal are served exclusively, well, the S1 is the only S-Bahn line that goes out this way, and apart from Roterboil Ost, all the stations along there are served exclusively by S1. And it's funny, I was going on about the ice trains earlier, and there's one of them now. I don't know where that'll be I don't know where that ice train will be going, but I'd hazard a guess and say Frankfurt am Main. And there's that train over there with the two coaches and the BR143. I'm guessing that's an S2 service heading to the airport. Because generally, I think the S1 services they have four coaches, and S2, fittingly, has two. As for S3, at least from what I've seen on the Dresden to Chemnitz route, that has got that's only got two coaches. And the other thing I think I've learnt is that all the S-Bahn lines all the S-Bahn lines use BR143 locomotives most of the time, and I think it's only the S1 that uses the 146 as well, and I'm not entirely sure why the BR143 is the primary motive power on the Dresden S-Bahn, especially considering, as I said earlier, like from my own experience, it's not a particularly easy engine to drive. I know that we'll be late, but I still want to have a quick look through these coaches. I like this. This is sort of almost like a modern incarnation of these old-fashioned compartments. Like if you remember some of the Harry Potter films and the scenes when they're riding on the Hogwarts Express, they're all in old like compartment coaches with a corridor down the side. Those coaches are of course British Railways Mark I stock. And I remember there's at least one coach on the Ice 3 trains that has sort of old-fashioned compartments like this. So you could probably just imagine what it would be like to ride in one of those sorts of coaches. Anyway, probably shouldn't hang around for too much longer, so we'll get the doors closed with that strange thing that sounds like a church bell.
Schließvorgang eingeleitet.
Just a minute. Why is that number on the... Oh, what on earth is he... Okay, not sure what that electric brake lever's all about. But anyway, let's get moving. I remember in the very early days of TSW there was this rather amusing glitch where you could go to this number 2 external view and then hold down the horn lever, and then you used to be able to really warp and mess with the sound as you wave the camera about, but that glitch has since been fixed. I mean, it was a glitch, but I still found it funny. especially with like the Class 166 on the Great Western Express route. The less I say about GWE, the better. Suffice to say, I think it's outdated tat. Well, speaking of like outdated like time periods and what the routes are set in, I don't know what year this Nahverkehr Dresden is set in, but I do know that Dresden to Chemnitz or Toronto Rump, that is set in a specific year, which is 2012. Why Dovetail decided to have it set 10 years in the past, I have no idea. Especially since there's nothing I can tell that along there that really does make it obvious that it's set in a different time period to the present day. That's right, on this section there's between here and Dresden Hauptbahnhof. Hang about, is that a mosque? Looks like one. Anyway, yeah, on this section between Dresden Neustadt and Dresden Hauptbahnhof, you go past 2 more stations, and this one is Dresden Mitte. And this one is... wait, no, yeah, that is Dresden Mitte, because the other one is Dresden Freiburger Strasse. And this one that we've just passed is of course served by the S-Bahn trains, as well as, I think, just the RE50 regional service. Because like Radebeul Ost, even though RE50 stops there, RE15 and RE18 don't. Slow down for that. There's a 60 speed limit, which I've noticed a bit too late. So with any luck we should be down to that speed in... no, we're not. Oh, we actually are, it's like with like 2 seconds to spare. This line that we're joining now, I think it's the one that it's the route that RB31 takes. Then because RB31 then rejoins the normal route just outside of Kostweg. There's Dresden Freiburger Strasse with an S-Bahn train, and there's a train in. This will definitely be an S1. Wall is a bit annoying, and of course we had to be stuck on the wrong side. Hello. Still building. Either way, I think that train would be S1. Of course, you just have to break the damn speed limits. Why does it like get rid of 15 points when you do something as insignificant as going 2 or 4 kilometers an hour over the speed limit? Actually, come to think of it, why do we have this pointless experience point system in the first place when it adds almost nothing to the overall gameplay experience? And of course, it's not like real drivers would actually use this sort of thing. And of course, because to make it just that little bit more annoying and unnecessary, you can't turn the experience point system off. Again, it's another one of those ridiculous decisions that Dovetail Games made, and you wonder, like, what the hell were they thinking? Or rather, were they thinking? It's like that career mode thing in Train Simulator, but at least you can turn that off. Whereas this one's a lot more annoying. And it doesn't help that in a lot of cases it's quite unforgiving. Anyway, so we're just about done now, even though we're a couple of minutes late. This is of course Dresden Hauptbahnhof. And I don't know what the stations are that have passed here, of course, because conveniently this is as far as Dovetail could be bothered to model. Now, what the earth? Strange. I'm surprised it didn't clear the instruction. Because yeah, there are some instances where you do, although it's never obvious, where you do have to stop in a very, very precise spot, even on this tiny little marker, just so it'll clear the instruction. Thus, oh, for God's sake. See what I mean? This is ridiculous. Like, why is it so fussy? takes too long to accelerate when you're under low pep. You've got to be kidding me. Dovetail, did you even test this sort of thing before releasing it, you brain-dead morons? Yeah, some of the stuff that you lot do really does drive me up the bloody wall. Get your act together, I'm trying to think of a rude name to call you lot without swearing, and it's not very easy. Like, if anything, I probably would be, like, given time, I probably would be able to do like an unscripted rant video about the sorts of things that Dovetail Games do that piss me off. But today's not the day for that, especially since I'll probably go out and watch some real trains at some point. And lock the doors and all. Dum. Surely I'm not the only one who thinks that sounds like a church bell. It is about that exact distance we've covered is the number of one of Kiwi Rail's DX locomotives, 5419. Right, a few minutes late, but made it to Dresden Hauptbahnhof in the end. And aside from that rant at the end, I do hope that you've enjoyed this run and enjoyed revisiting the Deutsche Bahn BR101 as much as I have. It's moving without a driver. This isn't my doing, by the way. I did not miss. I made sure the brakes were still on, and I certainly didn't open the throttle. I was thinking the BR101 would just stay there and just stay sitting there, motionless, while I did the outro piece. Regardless, and there they go, off towards somewhere else, perhaps Berlin. Anyway, yeah, that brings us to the end of the video, so until next time, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching, and take care. You have no idea how many times these NPCs have ruined my shots when I tried doing train spotting videos.